F1 podcast. It's the day after an absolutely mad Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and with me to discuss all of the madness are two mad people. It's Freddie Coates and Adam Dickinson. How are you both doing after what was just a nuts race?
I'm doing great. I really enjoyed the race. It's chaos and stuff like that, and it's carnage, and we don't like seeing massive crashes. But the actual racing that came out of the big crashes was brilliant. So yeah, well, nice. Well done, Baku. Everyone said that, and it feels wrong to say it, but yeah.
It does feel wrong to say it, so I'm not going to. But yeah, I'm so mad that I'm doing this podcast without a lamp on for the first time ever, I think, or ever in my uni room. So that is just how crazy we are here. Is it as crazy as the Baku race? Probably not, but we'll let the audience decide that. I'm good, Nigel. How are you?
Yeah, fine. I had an exam this morning, and so did Freddie. Hopefully, it's gone well.
I didn't.
Yeah, you didn't because you passed yours because you're clever. Not that we aren't, or not that Freddie isn't. Sorry, I mean, but yeah.
Nigel spends his days offending me, and I just sit here. I'm waiting for the next. I'm waiting for the next thing. It's going to be insane. I'm going to have to. I've got like a bingo card of Nigel attacking me.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. I mean, I have no idea where to start. I think it's only fair if we do talk about the winner first, Sergio Perez. It wasn't a great qualifying. He only started 7th, but then he just vaulted up the order, obviously took advantage of all the mayhem, which we're going to talk about. I guess he deserved the win in a way. Is that fair to say?
It's awful. Yeah. Did he deserve the win?
I'm so harsh on the Red Bull drivers, or the second Red Bull driver.
Well, I think, he qualified 7th. He started 6th because of Lando Norris's penalty. To be fair, his first Q3 lap was kind of his only bad lap of the weekend, because his Q2 time was matching with Verstappen and was 0.3 faster than his Q3 lap, bank lap. It eventually was. That wasn't even supposed to be his main Q3 lap. So on a lap when he was conserving tyres in Q2, on that lap for the start of the race, he was faster. So it was just a terrible lap at the start of Q3, which is annoying because he probably could have been way up there and didn't have to vault his way up through the order at the start. But he did that in a very good way. His first 3 corners were brilliant, up 2 places, past Sainz and Gasly, and then kept tabs with Leclerc, Hamilton and Verstappen while they were kind of had the opportunity to slipstream each other away from Perez, and he kept tabs of them. So he did a really good job, and he got himself into contention with some fantastic driving, I think. He did a much better job than Gasly and Albon have ever done in that car. And he kept Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, behind him for an entire race, basically. Yeah. And I think that's very, very good. And I think he does deserve the win. I think Nigel... I mean, obviously Verstappen did deserve the win also, but 2 drivers can deserve the win.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's damning with faint praise, saying that he's better than Gasly and Albon were in the car, because I don't think that's really saying much. But yeah, I think Verstappen definitely deserved the win. Perez, go on then. Why not? Let's be happy for him. But yeah, it was genuinely a good race. I think he, even with Hamilton's slow pit stop, I think he probably would have got out ahead of him anyway, because he was putting in some monster laps around.
He could have been in the lead. He could have taken the lead there. It would have been mad.
Yeah, and then, he did so well because Hamilton had DRS for most of his time that he was behind Perez, and he couldn't do anything. Perez drove well, he managed his tyres well, and then, as you say, I don't know whether he obviously got lucky in a way with Verstappen's blowout, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later, and obviously Hamilton's locking up at the first corner, because I thought Hamilton was through there, but ultimately, that was Hamilton's mistake, and Perez was flawless for most of the Sunday, really. And he did very well at the start, actually, moving up as well. He cleared the traffic in front of him very quickly.
Yeah, that was brilliant crucial, job. I think. That was crucial to his win, to get in that position, because from there, it was absolutely perfect for Red Bull. I mean, they would have had their first 1-2 since Malaysia 2016, I think, if not for everything that happened. And Perez only just finished the race, didn't he? He had a hydraulics problem. So that's why he stopped after the first turn. So imagine if that happened on the last lap. It would have just been, oh my God. Yeah.
Well, that's fair enough that he was managing that as well at the end. And I mean, yeah, there's only so much you can do to manage a hydraulics issue, but that controls so much of the car. That's power steering, DRS, brakes, I want to say, brake-by-wire systems. So basically all of the key ingredients to the car were having to be managed by Perez at the end, and he couldn't, overexert the car, because then he could have just completely, because a hydraulics issue normally just goes like that, gone, car off. So Red Bull were lucky that didn't happen yesterday in the race. Who knows when we're recording this? And they were lucky that was manageable as a problem. I don't know how much he would have done in the car, but presumably he wasn't, overexerting that car.
Yeah, Nigel saying in his introduction that we're here the day after the race definitely wasn't a hint as to when we are recording it.
It's 2 weeks after.
Yeah, the French Grand Prix has actually already happened.
And we're still reviewing the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which is a lot about Paul Ricard.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we've got so much to talk about. So I think on a normal podcast we would talk more about Perez because it is his first win for Red Bull. But I think we have to get on to Sebastian.
Nah, it's fine. He's already got a win.
Yeah,
it's boring.
Vettel replaced Perez, didn't he? So, and to get second in an Aston Martin, I mean, I don't think anyone expected that before the weekend.
I did.
For me, he was driver of the day. Did you?
No, I think I might have predicted that he'd get a podium this season, but I didn't think he'd get one this weekend. Otherwise, I would have said that on Friday's podcast or Thursdays or whenever we did it.
I think we all thought he'd get a podium this year, and then we saw how terrible the Aston Martin was in comparison to last year's Racing Point. And I thought going into the year, Vettel will get a podium and Stroll will probably get a podium in the same way that Perez and Stroll did last year. But then from sort of testing, I was kind of thinking, hang on a second, maybe not. Maybe this car is going to be, kind of like your 7th, 8th place car, and that's it really. What you kind of would expect from Alpine. What you would expect from your Alpine. So yeah, I think it was a stunning job. It was proper. It was Vettel of old, and it was Force India of old, if that makes sense. In that the two came together with brilliant driving and brilliant strategy, that was off the wall but fantastic to be able to lead a few laps of the race, and then overcut about 4 or 5 cars. Not that many. He made up a few places at the start, but 11th to 2nd as just an afternoon. No matter how, with only 2 cars ahead retiring, to be fair, well, going out of contention, that's still 11th to 4th. So on a bad day, that's fantastic.
Was Ocon ahead of him when he retired? Because I know he got a good jump.
I don't know. I can't remember Ocon's start.
I mean, he did make up places at the start, but I can't remember where.
Yeah, but he came up from like 14th, I think, didn't he? And Vettel came up from 11th, 12th. Okay, maybe they both did, because Bottas, I don't dropped back to like something. A few drivers dropped back. Sonoda and Bottas dropped back. I think Vettel and Ocon went
even
up.
Then,
even
worse, 5th place would be a mad performance for Aston Martin. I think it'd be their best this season, I think.
Matching last week.
Yeah. So it's just phenomenal drive from him, and he did. I know, obviously, you said he had the look with the drivers in front of him pulling out, but he still led or nearly led the midfield behind just Gasly. So, he was ahead of Gasly, wasn't he? So yeah, he led the midfield, which is a phenomenal achievement.
He overtook Leclerc. He overtook Gasly in one lap. He did both of them, and by that point, his tyres weren't as fresh as they could be. But then he kept tabs with Perez and Hamilton ahead, and was closer to them than Leclerc and Gasly were able to be to him. So he was. I mean, there hasn't been much of a step up in the Aston Martin car. Surely it's a similar car that was being driven in Spain and Portugal and stuff, where it was struggling to get out of Q2, and struggling to be a contention for points. And now it's in this race, it was clearly faster than the car that took pole position and the car that nearly took pole position in the AlphaTauri. So that's a stunning performance, really. When you look at it like that, the race pace there
made Q3, which is bonkers to think about.
It's a brilliant job, and he could have won the race if Perez's hydraulics issue had gone south a little bit quicker.
Yeah,
that would have been something.
Yeah, it definitely would have. And I think I said after Monaco and Vettel, that was his best performance about 18 months. But I think his Baku performance has bettered it already. It was
I agree.
phenomenal because I think he was unlucky with the red flags because he would have almost certainly made Q3. I think I don't know where he would have been, but we'll never know. But
He was
just for his race
300ths off.
alone, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and just for his race alone, he was just outstanding. We talked about how perhaps he isn't the best in wheel to wheel racing, but he kind of proved that wrong in a way on Sunday. And yeah,
He was
he just had the
clinical.
pace, he had the tyre management, clinical. Yeah, I think that's a good word to describe it. His race.
I think
Any more?
I don't want to kind of be drawing too much from just two good races for him, but it does feel like he's got his confidence back, which has been kind of what's been lacking, I think, since Leclerc came into Ferrari. And if he is on that, and I guess we'll see over the next 2-3 races whether that's kind of a more permanent thing or just kind of two madcap weekends. But if it is, then he could be on for a really good season because we know what he can do when he's got to grips with the car and he knows it and he's tuned into it because he's such a fast driver and he's a 4-time world champion.
Feels like he's got faith in the team in a way that he didn't have it so much with Ferrari. But I mean, that's more questions of Ferrari, to be honest. But who knows? I kind of think, yeah, the two drivers who, well, actually, I guess the three drivers who were on the podium, I think you could make a case for saying they're the three drivers who raced the best in terms of actual wheel-to-wheel combat in the race. I mean, yeah, Gasly was overtaken by Vettel, but other than that, Perez, overtook other cars to get himself into that position. And when he needed to do the in-laps and stuff with pit stops, he did them to such a degree that he was going purple in every sector on an in-lap and stuff like that, which is something really rare these days. And Vettel did essentially the same for his strategy. He overtook when he needed to and was supremely fast when he needed to. And both were really fast when they were in kind of conservation stages as well. So I think you've got two of the best drivers in that race in first and second. And I think that's very good. And you don't get that in modern Formula One because of the fact that, every car is not as good as one particular car.
Yeah, you mentioned Gasly there, Freddie, and it's his third podium in F1 in the AlphaTauri. And I mean, in qualifying alone, at one point it looked like he was going to be on pole position when he went fastest in the first sector, which is 45 seconds long or 40 seconds long as well. So it's quite a long part of the lap. But it didn't quite happen. Second row of the grid still, though, was an outstanding effort. And then in the race, despite having a problem with the power unit for the second half of the Grand Prix, he managed to get third place. And so just a phenomenal job once again.
It feels like this was kind of the race we expected for AlphaTauri to have maybe at Bahrain or something like that, obviously with Tsunoda going well too. But yeah, again, like you say, he was so fast and he could have had pole if Tsunoda had, backed off. It would have been a tough call, but I think, that was definitely within their grasp. And yeah, to then come back through and finish third, again, there's the caveat that we'll have with all these finishers that there was, they took advantage of problem further up the grid, but someone's got to do that. And you look at the drivers who beat Leclerc and Norris behind him. It was a top drive from Gasly, and he's now got 3 podiums and got a position on each, which is quite nice.
Yeah, nice circularity. He's finished 1, 2, and 3.
Triangularity, I guess, because you make a triangle out of them.
Yeah, triangularity. Pierre Gasly, the triangle driver. There was some fantastic moments throughout the race from Pierre and AlphaTauri in their the early pit stop phases as well. He jumped Leclerc, and that was brilliant. It was a brilliant job of him to jump Leclerc, just because he just got all his in-laps perfect. He got his tyres heated up. Bless you, Adam. He got his tyres heated up fantastically quickly, and then was just completely able to take advantage of Ferrari, who had already pitted earlier than him, I want to say, and just overcut the Ferrari. And kept Leclerc behind for the whole race, essentially, apart from for about 300 meters with 2 laps to go, where Leclerc tried to slipstream past him and he just slipstreamed back past him. Gasly, he raced fantastically and he just drove brilliantly in that car. There were there was just a fantastic air about him this whole weekend. And I don't know, for me, he was like, you normally an AlphaTauri podium, you'd think, oh my God, I remember when he got his first podium in Brazil, it was humongous. It was so ridiculous that Gasly was on the podium. And now he's a regular challenger at that half of the grid now. And it's brilliant for him. It's such a good performance from Gasly and AlphaTauri. And yeah, like you say, Adam, normally when they're up this high up in the grid, like Imola qualifying way up, Bahrain qualifying way up, and it's been trickling back down the field. But he stayed in contention for the whole race in the top positions.
21-point haul, which must be bar Gasly's win, must be the most they've got for a long time, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and then that racecraft when he did get back in behind the slipstream of Leclerc and then brakes super late. I thought that was mega racing from both of them. Clean, hard, fair racing. Yeah, that's exactly what we want to see. Let's talk about then. Well, just two moments that made me scream. I'll say that and shout. Let's start with Verstappen. Yeah, let's start with Verstappen. I mean, he must have been so angry when that moment happened. I mean, we could see how frustrated he was. He did everything right. He didn't put a foot wrong on it during the race, and then his tire blew out. I mean, I don't even know what to say.
I think it must be so gutting. I just can't I can't even imagine myself in his situation that would kind of be comparable to that. But yeah, it was like you say, he'd done everything right on the Sunday, and like we said with Perez, even with Hamilton's slow start, he would have comfortably come out ahead of him. I think he would have beaten him by about a second out of the pits. So yeah, he'd done everything right. The team had done everything right, and then the one bit of the car that they don't design, and that's the bit that goes wrong and sends them into the barrier. And the only two positives really are that he's okay, and that from his perspective, Hamilton didn't gain any points in the championship, because that could have been a 50-point swing in the championship. And that's it really.
It was going from sort of a net, if you take the whole championship being something like a 15-point lead for Verstappen, like you say, and then it could have gone the complete other way, and it looked like it was going to about half an hour at least. And then when Hamilton nearly took the lead, it looked like it was going to be another sucker punch to Verstappen. But we'll get on to Hamilton. The Pirelli debate is, I mean, obviously everyone sort of jumped on tyre failures immediately. Pirelli have sort of stuck to their guns, and no, we really think it's debris. And you look at the fact that Norris did a stint on hard tyres that was on like 41 laps long, and they looked at those tyres and thought, well, there's no wear on these really at all. They looked at other tyres and have found no excessive wear, and there's only one tyre they found with a massive cut on that didn't get a puncture, and that was on Hamilton's tyre. So Hamilton could have got a puncture as well from debris. And there was going to be debris left over from the feature race of the Formula 2, which was
So is that what Pirelli's saying at the moment? They think it's debris.
I think it's debris. I got there. Here we go. Mario Zola
because
said
Hamilton's, it was left rear, Stroll's was left rear, Verstappen's left rear. For me, they always say it's debris. And over the last 12 months, we had the Silverstone madness last year with Hamilton, Sainz or Ricciardo, I can't remember.
And Fiat.
Yeah, Fiat. Verstappen in Imola, Stroll in Mugello. And then, we can look back at many, many years, but just in the last 12 months alone, we've had these weird tyre failures where there's no signs of a loss of pace, no signs of hard tyre wear or blistering, and it just comes out of nowhere. And I don't think that's right. I think
the way what they're saying about like coming out of nowhere is where they get the debris argument from, obviously. What Mario Zola has said in his sort of official statement is that they need to clearly establish the facts behind the incidents. They're a long way from Italy, so it's going to take a couple of days for them to actually get properly underway with the investigations. But they should have some answers to sort of how they sort of piece it together with the cuts, like an aeroplane investigation. I heard Sky Sports describe it as, and we maybe will have something like that by the end of this working week, I'd say. But yeah, so they'd say no warnings or vibrations were detected, and none of the other tyres of a similar age or older showed any signs of excess wear. So we cannot exclude that damage was caused by an external factor, although these things shouldn't happen, and we can understand the need for answers. So I think, yeah, like you say, Nigel, there's accumulation of instances that it's not an excuse to jump on Pirelli. We're supposed to be jumping on Pirelli because the tyres, even with no warning, they should, like look at Bottas's puncture in 2019. He was at that point on the straight where Verstappen was, really sort of in between where Verstappen and Stroll was when he got his puncture. That was definitely from debris because Magnussen and Gasly had crashed into each other or something beforehand. But he was able to hold it because of the way the tyre blew. The way the tyres are blowing now is much more aggressive, it seems. I don't know if that's me just, getting a little bit over on top of it. But there seems to be, you're right, Nigel, there seems to be way too much of this. And teams aren't pushing the tyres. Stroll's instant was lap 31 on those hard tyres.
Verstappen said he had lots of speed left in him. He's driving within himself. Have you got any thoughts on this, Adam?
No, I think it's hard. The way Pirelli have kind of come out and seem to be pushing the debris theory, I don't know. I think it seems if they didn't genuinely believe that, then they just kind of say, oh, well, review all factors and not want to rule anything out at the moment. But I'll be interested to see what they come out with, and I hope it is kind of publicised. But yeah, I mean, I've just looked on Twitter now, and underneath that Pirelli comment that Freddie's just read out, there's a lot of people lambasting them, and then there's someone commenting, do you think that Pirelli make the tyres explode on purpose? Which, it's not. I just think, there needs to be some perspective on this, that they want the tyres to last. They don't want this at all. And I think just wait and see what the investigation comes back with, and then if it is found that they made the wrong decision with either the compounds they brought to the race or with the tyre construction to start with, then jump on them.
Yeah, these tyres.
It was a C3, wasn't it? On the track that's low deck. In fact, it just hardly has any deck. It's smooth as well. Corners are not high speed.
It was the tyre equivalent was of the hard would have been the medium in the 2019 race, I think. But these new tyres are the 2021 tyres. They're harder anyway. They're heavy. They're heavy tyres. They're brutes of a tyre. They're a nightmare to sort of drive. Look at Valtteri Bottas. He's putting a lot down to tyres, and they think they're up to temperature, and then it's the core not up to temperature, the bit you can't measure, which is the actual sort of existing bit of the tyre and stuff like that. And it's a dark art. And I don't know, ever since Pirelli have come in 2011 when they got the tender, it's been tyres have been just mad. You look at sort of 2005 and 6, the sort of peak of the tyre war between Michelin and Bridgestone, and they were super soft compounds, but they were lasting, and you could push on those tyres for so long,
forever.
They're designed to last 60 odd laps in 2005, and it was only really external factors that would throw them off, such as a broken suspension for Raikkonen, really, that kind of interrupted his tyre, which caused him to have a crash. But other than that, those tyres would stay at a brilliant level of low fuel cars because of the refueling in that time. So they're going, massive lows. These cars obviously are fast as hell and have periods with low fuel and periods with high fuel. But I don't know. I just don't know. Yeah. You're an international tyre supplier. You supply tyres to supercars. You supply tyres to pretty much every car company, and you're supposed to be the sporty tyre supplier. But why is it drop of a pin, drop of a hat? It's it's gone. Oh, look at that. It's come on. Yeah.
It just seems to be a bit of a lottery. That's my problem. But just like we've talked about, we'll see what they say.
It can't be a lottery when it was twice at the same track. Surely not. I don't know. And there's a massive cut, like you say, in the left rear.
When was
Never
the
ignore
last
a coincidence. That's that Stroll one, I guess, and that was at high speed.
Verstappen in the Imola, actually.
Oh, Imola, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, it's, I don't know.
It's Silverstone that kind
None
of
of us
comes
know.
into it more than those. Yeah, it's the Silverstone one where, like you say,
Yeah,
Sainz,
I think that's
Hamilton,
the kind of
Bottas, and that was all like the front left tire, wasn't it? So they all had the same tire going. This is another thing where it's the same tire. We're not tire technicians, but we're interested in safety. I mean, come on.
We've not seen the tyres. I haven't anyway. I don't know whether I agree. You have, but yeah, I see what comes out. But I think if they do find that it was, Freddie's for either, like you say, with the construction or the choice of tyres for this track, then that is, there should be really serious looks at whether Freddie should continue to supply an F1, because there could have been 2 very serious injuries today.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Both cars were safe, they're okay, and it's just a testament, as we talked about before, to the safety of modern day F1 cars, that they can have a massive crash into a concrete wall and the drivers can just walk out. So it could have been a bit of a disaster for Verstappen, but instead, I mean, another moment that maybe just shout. I mean, first of all, what was both of your reactions to Hamilton locking up? I want to know.
Oh, it was just kind of like, proper like swearing and then speechless for a good few minutes, and then like, oh my god, Gasly and Leclerc are fighting. Don't do that. We've got to recover from this. That kind of thing. It was just like a cartoon.
Yeah, Adam.
And then Freddie ran out of his window, he was running on thin air for 5 seconds before he realised, and then fell off.
Oh no, I've got to go and watch the race.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was just shocked, and there's so many elements to it. There's the championship swing, and then there's the Perez getting the win again, and Gasly getting the podium, and it's there's just so much to think about in that moment, in that few seconds. I mean, taking a kind of more measured look at it, that is absolutely massive in the championship. That is it's hard to underestimate how big that is in a championship that, at least I think, will go down to the final race. Then a swing like that is, I can't believe it. I'm still in shock.
It would have been a dagger to the heart of
Otherwise, I'd need to be in an
Verstappen as well. That's great to know. Yeah, I mean, it would have been, like I said, a dagger to the heart for Red Bull and Verstappen if Hamilton won after what happened to Verstappen with his puncture as well. So it was just a huge moment, and it was a mistake. He said on the upshift he flicked the magic button, which is a button that heats up the brakes, heats up the tyres during the safety car, but you don't want it on when you're actually racing, because it will just lock up your tyres and there's not much you can do about it.
Well,
Freddie looks like he wants to say something.
Yeah, there's some specifics to it. It basically cuts off all rear brakes. So you can essentially do I think something like an 80% front brake bias, which is huge.
Wow.
And just basically means you've
normally
got
they run at 50, don't they? 55.
Yeah, normally 50, 55, maybe 55 in the wet and 50 in the dry, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas this is huge. I mean, you can understand it for when you're going at slow speeds, just pile all the heat at the brakes in the front of the car. And he definitely turned it off. Bono, his engineer, said he turned it off when they played a little team radio interjection in Parc Ferme. And yeah, so like you say, Nigel, it just basically meant that he couldn't stop the car because he only had half the brakes on his car.
Yeah. He had the move done as well. And after all of what happened, because Mercedes looked like they were in the absolute, I don't even know what to say, woods.
Pound
that
seats.
Making sense. Yeah, they did not look good all weekend, basically, until Hamilton, and only Hamilton, was Bottas, was awful. Hamilton turned it round in qualifying.
I thought you meant they looked like they were going to be winning when he had got in front. So I was like, he's in the pound seats for the win.
I just
and then you're like,
yeah,
they were terrible.
They look like they're in the water bottle or the headphones or the Colgate.
You mean they're in the doghouse?
Yeah, there we go. Word with Nigel. But yeah, after all,
that could be a podcast in itself. Word with Nigel.
We don't
just say
that.
a word that makes no sense to anything, and that is a podcast in itself.
Yeah,
not a long podcast.
Yeah. I mean,
Depends how big a dictionary
I've
you've
lost
got.
my trail of thought now. Can't remember what I was going to say. Yeah,
You're talking
he
about
recovered
Mercedes being
quickly.
bad this weekend.
Yeah. And
They look like they're in the
doghouse.
flyer.
yeah. And
Definitely in the
I
bin.
think he bottled it in a way. I think he did. Yeah.
He did bottle it. He bottled, like we said earlier, the championship lead that could have been there. And there's a lot of talk about, this could have been massive for the championship, and now it's irrelevant for the championship because the points are the same as entry, and both things are true. And like you were saying, Adam, how huge it is for the championship. So the mentality here is that you're going out of this is like the biggest low for both drivers of the season, of however long in their careers. Surely there hasn't been a low this big in Hamilton's career since 2016, I would say. And for Verstappen, he's obviously never been in this position before, where for a good half an hour he thought, a pure opportunity to have his own massive lead in the championship had been taken away from him because of that blowout. So it's huge, and we're not going to stop talking about this for years.
Yeah.
Years.
Do you think the pressure has anything to do with it, Adam?
Yeah, I think so. I think he didn't do that if it's like Bottas or, 2019 Vettel behind him, or not behind him, but kind of fighting with him for the title. Yeah, I think it's so big because it's like his luck. He's had an absolutely massive slice of luck here. And, in general, I don't like talking about that. Like, you look at Imola and you think actually he got a slice of luck, but actually he then did so well. Not many drivers could have done that. Here it was, completely given to him that he had this chance to make up so much ground on Verstappen when it looked like he'd be losing even more ground in the title fight, and now he's just thrown that away through completely his mistake. And it's I think for me it's that, I think you can't imagine Verstappen will do the same, if and when Hamilton has a retirement or Hamilton's on the back foot or throws away a race lead.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, every other driver made the corner. I mean, that's the point of it. Is like
even like when it's a street circuit, just like normal drivers manage to make it. And,
exactly. Like every Azeri who's turned through there has made the corner and that kind of thing. Bakuvian. I like that a lot. But it is at the end of the day, it's a byproduct of Hamilton's mistake that he flicked this switch that he wasn't supposed to flick and stuff like that. And it's just, he didn't mean to, and that kind of thing. It's not like he broke in the right place for if the brakes were going to be doing the right thing and stuff like that. And the question is, why was that switch able to be flicked? I've no idea where it is on the Mercedes steering wheel. I don't know if he just pressed in with his arm in the wrong position, but he always has his hands in a particular position with the start. And I don't know if that, with his one hand sort of on top of the steering wheel, whether that kind of threw into it. And because of the short distance to the actual turn in from the start, whether he was moving his hand back from the top of the steering wheel too quickly to sort of the side of his steering, I don't know. But if it's on the upshift, I thought that's on the right. But I don't know enough about the Mercedes steering wheel. It seems too rare a mistake, really. This has never happened before.
But also the pressure as well.
It's never happened before. But I don't see him as a driver who's shaking to accidentally flicks a switch. It's really hard. It was his mistake. It's just, I don't know. It was his mistake.
When you're a learner driver and you have your hands on the wheel, and then you just keep turning them around, and you need to indicate, and you're just stuck up there trying to reach for the indicators, but you've moved your hand rather than keep it at the same place, and then it's oh damn, except it's
you use your foot, but then you're oh no, but I'm using that to brake and stuff like that.
Oh, I wasn't, but anyway.
I mean, Hamilton, for me, he's been so good in these types of situations to capitalise on when luck does go his way, or when there's a mistake from others, as Freddie and Adam, if you're watching on YouTube, do some funky.
I'm inventing a pulley system so that I can turn the indicator in my first driving lesson with my mouth. So,
how do you push it down though?
You get one of those fun modern cars which has an automatic release of it. You just can't ever turn left.
Can't have it. Oh, Hamilton couldn't turn left the other day, could he? So.
Hey, back on track, but he's not because he went off track.
Yeah,
But he did get back on track.
I'm just kind of like Adam. I just couldn't believe what was happening. And the worst thing is, on the team radio, he said it's a marathon, not a sprint as well.
I know,
And then
I know.
that happened. Oh, he just couldn't make it up. He just couldn't.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, but that doesn't mean he shouldn't have done what he did, which is have a fantastic start at that restart.
Yeah.
Perez, actually, I said Perez had one bad thing this weekend. It was his Q3 first lap. But to be fair, that restart was also actually pretty shoddy from him. If you look at Hamilton and Vettel were kind of basically swamping him, and Hamilton did the best job from the second position on the grid to get his car alongside there. And
Perez
then he just
was ahead, Hamilton might smash into the back of him.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a really good point. So Perez is
Especially
lucky
if he'd been
that Hamilton got a good start.
If he'd been in third or any position behind the front row, then he would have caused an absolute chaos.
It would have been insane.
Would have been like an F1 online game. Like
it kind of was still though.
Where you just kind of like go into the first corner and then just everyone behind you crashes into you.
It still was. I mean, the amount of online races I've done on the F1 game where you drive, go side by side with someone, and they'll just go off to Narnia somewhere, and then you'll be like, oh, there we go. And it's that kind of thing. Like, even where he was, he was still lucky not to hit Perez. To be fair, actually, it's a good point. Like, because Perez was well on the turn in, because it's not a long braking zone. They're only, it's a few gears up and then a few gears down, and that's it. And I don't know if you guys have seen. Mercedes put a clip up on social media of Toto Wolff's reaction to it. And that's honestly, I felt uncomfortable watching that. That was the hardest thing to watch. It was just like the sheer joy in the garage that then got replaced with the sheer despair in sort of milliseconds is, oh my goodness.
I mean,
that was really bad.
I don't know if this might sound really bad, but I kind of feel it's justice for what happened to Verstappen in a way, because if Hamilton had a big lead, I would have not that I'm like biased to either one, or no, I might be a bit.
You're sounding quite biased.
You are sounding quite biased.
I want the championship to be close on fair terms in a way.
Let's have Perez win every race for a few weeks, and then we'll have three drivers in the fight. Yeah,
that's what I'd like to happen, and it just I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, from a neutral's perspective, it keeps the championship close, and I agree with that. I'm happy with that outcome. But for both drivers, I think both situations are really sad. So it's kind of like,
I'd say Verstappen, he did nothing wrong at all, but Hamilton, it's on him. And I'd say Hamilton's been the luckier driver by quite a bit this season.
I want the championship to be decided by good driving, and I kind of want it to be decided by an incredible overtake or an incredible recovery drive or whatever, and great time management or brilliant strategy. I think that's what I want it to be decided by, rather than the mistakes of people or teams. And yes, Verstappen, it was potentially Pirelli's mistake that got him out, but that's not kind of down to him. And I just want it to be kind of decided by a positive influence. And, I expect at some point the tables will be turned and Verstappen will have the chance to capitalise on misfortune that befalls Hamilton. And I think
he already has.
So, yeah.
When?
Imola. Hamilton put himself out of the fight. Hamilton got Hamilton. The race. But Hamilton was 2 seconds behind, less than that.
He was closing,
Hamilton was closing on him, and there was a fight for the lead. And then after that, there was never a fight for the lead. So that's given a free pass to then take that win, isn't it? But like, if we start if we start going into all this stuff about luck, then we start negating everything everyone does. It's this whole thing about the 2016 thing. It's like, Hamilton had these engine failures, and consequently that meant that he had to work harder later on in the championship, and that all that kind of stuff. But like, that shouldn't take away from the fact that Rosberg, when he drove fantastically all year and capitalized on those kind of things, and people forget about that kind of stuff. And it's like, whenever there's bad luck, like you said earlier, Adam, with Gasly's podium, it's like someone's got to be there to capitalize on it, and they're doing a good job to capitalize on it. So it's like, luck happens, bad luck happens, and it just feels like a waste of time to kind of like try and match the luck. I always think.
For individual races, yeah, I agree. It's
For championships, for the whole thing, luck is always there, and bad luck is always there, and good driving is always there, and bad driving is always there. Yeah, but you're not going to get that then, are you? The best way is to ignore it. Well, cool.
Don't go into a championship thinking neither Verstappen or Hamilton is going to have any bad luck. All of their pit stops are going to be perfect. All of their tyres, all of their engines, all of their gearboxes are going to be perfect.
That's a team
They're going to be like incredible racing for the whole thing.
But team errors and reliability come into it because it's a team sport.
But tyre failures don't.
But everyone has the opportunity to run the same tyres. They're not built in a different way, are they? They're built in the same way.
For Hamilton in Imola.
Oh, fine. Let's just do a time trial. Exactly. Go and watch rallying or something.
I do.
Yeah, exactly. Go and do that on your own.
We're going a bit off topic. We might continue this debate next week or something because it is quite interesting. Let's talk about Bottas, something we might all agree with, and it was basically.
Well, they had a good weekend.
How was it his worst weekend at Mercedes? Do we think?
He had a lot of bad luck.
Oh, where was it? Was it Imola? Was it Imola that he did awfully?
I think this is his worst because Imola and Turkey were wet.
Right.
This is dry. And to be fair, I mean, yeah, the Mercedes was way off at the start, but like of the weekend, that is. But Hamilton qualified on the front row. Hamilton nearly took the lead with 2 laps to go. Bottas couldn't overtake Lando Norris and was going off him. Like, come on. Like, what? The side of
as well.
Yeah, exactly. He took pole and won the last time we were there. And he nearly won the year before that. So it's kind of like, come on, Bottas. The team has got on top of these issues and has come up with a system to do that. Yeah, you're entitled to go your own way and have the higher downforce wing, but the team don't think that's the right way to go because look at what's happening to Lewis Hamilton, and look, he's on the front row. Like, come on, Valtteri, like, come on, mate.
Yeah, I can't. We've said this so many times, but he's got a definite problem of following cars or racing. He just.
He's like you, Nigel. He prefers a time trial to a race. That's the thing. Like, he's a really fast driver, and he's justifiably there for the most part on pace. Only this year, really, has he not been there on pace. And every other year in the Mercedes with like qualifying and stuff, he deserves to be there based on pace. But in races, he doesn't deserve to be there. He's not a race driver. He's a fast driver. And we've said this before about him, but I've never seen it more than this weekend, where he just cannot race for toffee. And this track it's designed for a slipstream. It's 2.2 kilometers that straight. Come on, mate. I can't cope with it. I feel like slapping him.
It really cost Mercedes as well here. Like, they could have so done with having him in the fight and being able to mix this up, because having Perez there as well, if Verstappen and Hamilton hadn't both had their issues at the end of the race, then that's still, Perez would have cost Hamilton an extra 3 points compared to if they'd had Albon and Gasly in the seat, most likely. They needed Bottas there to be able to mix it up and to be able to be at least on Perez's level to, the Constructors' Championship as well. We're not even thinking about that, but Red Bull have lost another 18 points from that, and that would have been a huge swing there as well. So it's so costly. Like, sometimes he's not been on the pace with Hamilton. In last year, he was not on the pace with Hamilton for a lot of the races, but it was, it didn't really make a massive difference. Anyway, it was only, we're not going to have a championship fight. But this year for Mercedes, it's so costly for them.
You raised a really good point there about sort of the second driver debate with the championship and stuff like that. And everything we said at the top of this podcast about Perez and why he's doing better than Albon and Gasly and stuff like that. Bottas was the yardstick we used to measure that on. We used to go, look at Bottas. He can qualify nearby, and he can do the wingman role, and he can succeed at that for a lot of it. He might not like to be the wingman, but he's good at it. But he wasn't good at it anymore. He's fallen off. He's the Albon and Gasly in this situation.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean,
I have done.
I'm going to defend him because I think the Mercedes is a very tricky car to get into the right operating window. And Hamilton had the exact same problem in Monaco. Yes, he can't overtake, but in qualifying, when it mattered, Hamilton could not get his car and his tyres into the working window. I think it's just the same problem with Bottas. I think in Azerbaijan.
But he's not. He's had an armchair ride in a race-winning car for so long, and kind of the point of him being there, it's for these situations, and the fact that he's not there, I think it is fair to criticise him because that's his role, and he's not being fulfilling it. 2 weeks ago,
Hamilton had the same problem.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is a role reversal.
Hamilton's got 3 wins in the second place this season.
Yeah, but then again, Bottas has 3 third places.
Of course.
To be fair, Bottas has 3 third places, and like when he's been there, he's been there. Like when he's been there, there's 2 races he's not been there. 4 races he has been there. One of them he had a pit stop issue. Otherwise, he would have been second. To be fair, it's kind of like there's pros and cons, but the cons seem to be outweighing the pros at the moment. I'd say.
The way I see it is that
after 5
Bottas's
seasons,
Azerbaijan weekend was a role reversal of Hamilton's Monaco weekend, except Bottas is just not as good.
What's worse at doing badly? Well, no, he's better at being bad than Hamilton was. That's the thing. That's it.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. Yeah, but for me, I think that's how I see it. So I think Imola was worse. I'd say. So, yeah, but that's just how I see it. Is there anything else you want to add?
I think Imola was better. I think Imola was better because he showed flashes of pace throughout practice and stuff like that. And whereas with this, there was never a lap where he was good. Like Friday practice, we were going about how far down Mercedes was. Hamilton out of the top 10, Bottas out of the top 10. But Bottas was a further second back from Hamilton outside of the top 10. It's like there wasn't a good bit for Bottas here. And it was bad out of the box, but he was worse out of the box by a country mile. Whereas at least in like somewhere like Imola and Turkey, he had flashes and stuff like that. And there was potential and he didn't meet that potential and things with that.
Baku's such an odd circuit because the conditions change a lot.
So what if it isn't even on a circuit?
Baku's a more odd circuit, I'd say.
They're both odd circuits, but odd's a thing that you got to deal with because they're Formula One racetracks, aren't they? It doesn't matter if it's an odd circuit. It wouldn't surprise
me if Bottas.
If we said, Alex Albon's off because it's an odd,
it really wouldn't.
Or Alex Albon's off because it's an odd circuit, you would jump on him like, "What's an odd circuit? I'm going to end you," and it's that kind of thing.
Nigel, the Olympic trampoliner. I think in Monaco, Hamilton. He had the pace to make up positions, but he couldn't in Monaco. Yes, he wouldn't have made it to probably the podium, but I think he could have made it into the top 5 at least. But here it was Bottas. There's not that constraint. It's as Freddie said, there's a 2.2 kilometer straight, and it's not just kind of bad positioning or anything like that. He was just slow and he was unable to overtake because of him being slower than the other drivers. That was all there was to it. And he qualified 10th. Yeah. I'd forgotten that, but he qualified 10th.
There was a red flag.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah. Well, don't criticise Perez then for qualifying 7th.
Yeah.
I did in my article thing. I did.
Exactly.
Yeah. I criticise everyone.
So criticise Bottas.
I always.
Are you going with 3.5 out of 10?
I do.
You got 3.5?
I'm just saying that.
Why didn't he get a 2.5?
Yeah, why did he get a 3.5, not a 2.5, not a 2?
Because
what's the saving grace? Is the races he did last week.
He did 2 corners, so that's the difference.
Because he did 2 corners in Bahrain, he's got a 3.5 this weekend.
No,
Mazepin racing 365.
Mazepin I gave a 2 in Bahrain because he only did 2 corners and.
Mazepin's a cold case though. That was Mazepin's first Grand Prix weekend. Valtteri Bottas is
and that was you should have given Mazepin
Bottas is something like what?
You should have given Mazepin 1 anyway. So it's like that's moot anyway. But then
No,
Bottas,
a
can't give a
one is
point-
for like
You can't give a
extreme
point
cases.
per corner because then everyone after one lap would be way above that.
That's why I'm not giving a 10. No one's getting a 10 this season unless there's only one scenario where someone can get a 10. I'll say that.
What? And that's like they buy you a prize? I don't know.
No,
I can't think of any other way.
There would have to be a midfield driver who somehow gets pole in the wet or something, but then they get disqualified from qualifying for something stupid, and then they come back through the field and win the race.
why don't you do ratings out of 9 then? Like, what's the point
I'm waiting
of
for that
having
to
the 10?
happen.
But it's not going to.
But like, I feel like you
Just
should be harder on
wait for
Valtteri
the British Grand
Bottas.
Prix.
I feel like you should be harder on Valtteri Bottas than a guy in his first ever Grand Prix, because isn't he something like in the top 10 for the amount of podiums all time? So like, that's a driver who's proved, he can be all right. So surely if he has a terrible performance, you should jump on him.
And like,
What if it was
there's no
Bottas?
expectation
He
of
bounces
Mazepin as
back.
well. Bottas is here
let
for.
these things phase him.
I didn't hear anything you said.
Yeah, that was my mistake. Sorry.
Yeah, I was
no,
gonna
it's
say,
all right.
Bottas bounces back from bad weekends, and I think that's something that we shouldn't take for granted in a way.
Yeah,
gonna
that's fair
predict him
enough.
and
I guess
podium
all
for
eyes
the
on
next
France.
race.
Yeah.
How many drivers, if they've been Lewis Hamilton's teammate in the last 4 years, would have mentally, physically just been out of it? Was Bottas?
Oh, I'm sure
he's got a pole
tons.
position
I'm sure
this year, and
tons.
so that's why I
But that shouldn't rate this
kind of feel
weekend.
sorry for him in a way.
Yeah, but I think that's fair looking at his overall career. But I think when you're looking at individual, even if we leave the ratings aside, like looking at this weekend, I don't think that
Yeah,
kind
he
of
was bad. Yeah, he
redeems
was bad,
it in
but-
itself.
Yeah, but I don't think his Saturday, at least, or his Friday and Saturday, was no worse than Hamilton's Monaco. I just think he doesn't have the racecraft, and that was the only difference. Yeah, it's a massive difference. Yeah,
I
think
just
that's the
don't
only
think it was
difference, really.
racecraft. I think
think
that
it was.
comes into it, but I think there was. I think there's more to it because, like I say, his Friday and Saturday were way off Hamilton.
But that's because
Hamilton's Friday and
Mercedes-
Saturday in Monaco, Thursday and Saturday. What were they like? I can't. They weren't.
Hamilton's a
It
better
wasn't mixing with
driver,
nobody,
and we
was
know
he?
that. Hamilton's a better driver, and we expect him to be ahead of Bottas. So
that's even more damning. That's arguably more damning than saying Bottas had a bad race, because you're saying automatically Hamilton should be ahead. Like that Bottas is so bad that it should never be ahead of Hamilton.
no, not
There's an
Hamilton's so
issue.
great that he should be ahead.
Yeah, I see that more as that. To be fair,
Yeah.
that's a hard one to counter for the Hamilton being so great thing.
I think the Mercedes car compared to the Red Bull, it's a lot trickier to get into the right window. And Hamilton had to try so many different setups and combinations to find that right window. Yes, he found it. Bottas didn't. But Hamilton could very easily have gone down the same route because the Mercedes W12 is so fickle. It's another diva.
Diva forever.
Yeah.
Divas are a girl
Uh,
best
It is a
friend.
diva.
That's the wrong
It is a
thing.
diva, yes. It's just, I still think it drives a lot better than. I'm sure it drives a lot better than a lot of the worst cars on the grid and that kind of thing. And it's a hard one. It's really hard, and we're going around in circles with all of this. It's just like
Bottas was this weekend.
they all were, to be fair.
Turkey last year, yeah. Shall we move on to Fernando Alonso? I thought
You
he
definitely
had a
do.
good race because his restarts. I think after the first safety car, he went from 14th to 11th, and then after the red flag, he went from 10th to 6th, which was just crazy. I'll definitely check it out if there is a video out there. So yeah, just good to see him back on some good form.
Well, I think he was driving well, but why the hell was he down in 14th at one point? What the hell was that strategy, Alpine? That was atrocious. Not to be shouting at everything again, but like it was terrible because he started in 8th place, I want to say.
8th, yeah.
8th, and so he was, he should have been in contention for those points that he was getting late on in the race. Like he got the 6th place. He should have been in contention for the whole race. He should have been in a similar contention with like Gasly and Leclerc. I think based on his pace he showed at the restarts, he should have been up there for that point. And I think Fernando saved Alpine's backsides there. I think you're right. Fernando did fantastic. I think Alpine need to get their act together with that strategy.
I agree with you on that one, Freddie.
Yeah,
another fantastic drive from Alonso at Baku. Yeah, I thought he was fantastic, and like you say, I don't know what the potential would have been to get even higher up the grid, or even higher in the points, but yeah, is that his best result of this season so far?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think his highest previous is an 8th.
Yeah, so yeah, like you say, good to see him back and see if he can continue this form through. But can we talk about Leclerc, because he got pole? He got his second pole. Talking about continuing form through, and we're like waiting until an hour through this podcast or however far we through to talk about.
Sorry, Ferrari.
Like, he got pole. Come on.
Yes, we should talk about Leclerc. He was fantastic this weekend. I should eat some humble pie for saying in our preview how much I thought Ferrari were going to be way off this weekend. And they weren't. I think actually, hats off, Ferrari, guys. You've made a much better car than I thought you had. So that it can be quick at Baku and at Monaco. I mean, yeah, they're weird circuits, as Nigel said. But like, this is a high-speed track, and in comparison to a really slow-speed track, the car still had good, brilliant underlying pace there. So hats off, Ferrari.
Yeah, I think if the madness didn't happen on Sunday, we'd be talking about it a lot more, because to get Ferrari on pole at Baku, considering everything that we think about it, and that they probably still have the worst engine, maybe along with Renault/Alpine, maybe, but
an upgrade this weekend.
They did, yeah. They had fresh engines in there, along with all of the Mercedes-powered cars. But either way, Leclerc just fantastic. I don't think Ferrari did have the race pace, so in a way, I think Leclerc maximised his result, although he could have got third if he perhaps was a bit better with Gasly. But other than that, I think Leclerc got the most out of it, whereas Sainz made a crucial error at a bit of a dodgy time in the race.
Yeah, I think like you say, it was kind of reminiscent of Spa last year a bit, some of the moments on the straight for Leclerc where he's just getting passed by everybody, it seemed, in the first kind of 5 or 10 laps. But after that, he stabilised, and to get fourth would have been sixth otherwise. That still would have been a fantastic result, and ahead of Norris, which is fantastic.
That's important.
Yeah, it's very crucial.
That's what's put them 2 points ahead in the Constructors' Championship.
And
of Ferrari off McLaren.
And Ferrari have got their qualifying. Ferrari have got their qualifying strategy sorted out as well, because they just need to get someone to crash once Leclerc goes absolutely storms it to get onto the pole, and then.
That's a good point, actually. Yuki Tsunoda was nowhere near making that corner. I heard someone like very people who actually know about this kind of stuff saying he broke something like 40 meters later than he should have done to actually make the corner. Yeah, which is ridiculous. Word. Like there was something in there that kind of just like Ricciardo crashed and he broke way earlier than Tsunoda. I've heard people be saying, like, people like who work for the race and stuff, who are actually like proper journalists, and like, so he's kind of like, goodness me, Tsunoda, you just kind of thought go crazy. It's just kind of the Tsunoda thing. And he has had a good weekend this weekend, but there's still sort of the flashes that AlphaTauri are trying to control, of like this sort of uber rage Tsunoda, like the little sort of Kirby kind of guy who just decided to plant it into the wall, and terrified Carlos Sainz. And I really related to Carlos Sainz accident, because I did a similar one go-karting last week, where you see someone crash in front of you, just lock on the brakes and don't know where to go, and just the car just spins.
Oh, so you think it was an accident? You don't think he was going in on purpose to save Charles' pole?
After a car had already crashed in front of him, he deliberately then had a smaller crash. Sorry, didn't we have then had a smaller, less consequential crash to then make sure that his teammate had pole and that he could start fifth?
Yeah, well, Tsunoda, like, he might have been all right, but he just didn't realise that. I think, he's got to.
Carlos Sainz said Carlos Sainz, he said he saw smoke and didn't know whether Tsunoda had gone into the runoff or into the barriers. He was like, I've got to avoid this. And then he saw him and was like, because he was trying to make the corner. Sainz was, and he's like, oh no, I can't make the corner because there is a car there. And that's why he just, he did the Fauchal and played the team game. Definitely played the team game.
Speaking of teams, great segue. Williams have dropped
Microsoft Teams. He said on a Zoom
My
call.
goodness. Williams have now dropped to last in the Constructors' Championship because Haas, with Mick Schumacher, who got 13th after a bit of a scary, stupid move from Mazepin at the end. Haas have got ahead, which Adam predicted before the season. Adam, how are you feeling about
that? Vindicated. No, I think I still can't see either team getting points, to be honest. Which I don't know. I think it may well be decided by like Latifi finishing 11th in like Singapore or something like that. I don't know.
Singapore's been cancelled, so if he does, that would be fantastic.
It's just both teams aren't doing very well, but Haas are just doing less badly than Williams at the moment. And good on Mick Schumacher.
Only this weekend, really. Every other weekend, Williams has been better, but this weekend, Williams didn't do good at all. It was weird how much worse they were than usual this weekend.
I mean, the reason why is because Russell had his gearbox or loss of power, which is why he couldn't take up the standing start. So that's why Russell wasn't up there, because I think Russell would have finished ahead of both passes. And Latifi did finish ahead on the road, but
did Russell do a pit lane start?
No, he didn't start at all for the standing start. The restart on lap 49 because he had a problem waiting in the garage, and he would have been ahead of the Haas car. So that was really, really costly.
Straight over my head, that I missed that.
Yeah, it's just another, like you say, really costly, and another example of Williams when they've got a chance to get a good result, just not coming off for whatever reason, which has happened so much over the past few years.
Nicholas Latifi got his first ever penalty points. Because of which is good for his 2020 season, but bad for his 2021 season, I guess. And that means his whole F1 career he's never had penalty points. But until now, where he didn't go through the pits under the safety car after Verstappen's crash because he thought he was told not to. Which, to be fair, he was told not to because it says stay out, stay out, stay out. So he did stay out while the 15 cars ahead of him went into the pits. And then they were like, oh, we meant to stay out as in just don't pit. And he was like, well, of course. But poor Latifi probably thought he was going to take the lead.
Well, it's the fact as well that he drives past the big,
massive truck
lorry. Putting Verstappen's car onto. That was my favourite bit. He just comes straight past that.
It was a deserved penalty, to be fair, because that was stupid. From team and driver, because the driver can see the other cars. It's not like he's the leader. He's way back. He's Latifi. So like he can follow the cars and see the trucks over there and not drive at them and that kind of thing. But it would have been great if they'd got a bold call and he would have taken the lead. But anyway.
Imagine if he just floors it and then zooms around the outside and goes.
It would have been awful. That would have been costly for Haas.
Why do we think that some of the red flags? Well, in fact, why do we think the safety cars took quite a while to be called for? Because I think that's something a couple of us have observed.
I don't know is why at all, because we heard that team radio message sort of about a good minute after we'd seen everyone past the crashed Verstappen. We heard Ferrari say, we're still racing. You've got to be racing. And he was like, no, we shouldn't be racing. I just saw a massive crash and that kind of thing, which is like, you're right, Leclerc. And I think, why wasn't there like a safety car immediately? Like, it's an annoying one to bring up, but with the Grosjean incident, by the time the cars cars were at the end of the straight when that happened, by the time they turned into the corner, there was a red flag. It doesn't take much to see, that's a severe issue. And when you see a car have a 200-mile-an-hour crash, that's a severe issue. So, I don't know.
Are there more of these? Because I don't know whether it's just we're noticing them more, because I'm kind of doing the podcast on it now. We're kind of picking up on these things more. But, just thinking back very loosely, there was the Leclerc seatbelt incident in, was it Barcelona last year, and the... with one of the Williams, maybe Turkey, when it was the wet track kind of going out for qualifying, and there was still still a recovery vehicle out on track when they sent them all out, and there are probably more that I've Stroll at Imola as well, going really quickly under yellow flags and nearly hitting all the marshals. It feels like there are more of these in the last 2 years than I can remember for a while, and I don't know what it is, but
well, there's an interesting, quite unfortunate correlation to the passing of Charlie Whiting at the start of the 2019 season, and sort of the induction of Michael Masi, who was at the time sort of a deputy to Charlie Whiting, a protege really, who was sort of thrust into the role of F1 race director probably 5 years way too early, but was being groomed for it and was, the next guy running, because Scott Elkins, who was the previous sort of next guy, is now doing Formula E and doing his own big stuff. And Michael Masi wasn't. So Michael Masi was brought in and he's been the race director since then. I feel like I don't really know if there's anyone else that this kind of falls on apart from Michael Masi. You're the race director.
It's his job.
It's his job to keep the track safe, and the track wasn't safe. And like you say, Adam, the past 2 years, that's pretty much exactly matching when Charlie Whiting passed away, which is not a good record, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, there's the safety aspect, which is a lot more important than like what I'm about to say, but there's also the track limits thing as well. I feel that's become a lot of a much bigger talking point in the last couple of years as well. Yes, it has always been a major thing, but especially in a few of the early races this year, it was a bit so inconsistent and stuff, and there's been so many inconsistent penalties as well over the last year or so. So yeah, it doesn't look great for Michael Masi, I'll say that, because obviously it's a very difficult job and all that, but there's been a lot of mistakes, I feel.
Yeah, and it's yes, it's a very difficult job, but it's, I imagine, quite well paid, and it's kind of
you've got to be good. You've got to be good to get in contention.
It's sure, yeah, but it's a high profile job with presumably a fair bit of perks, and the reason for that is because he's responsible for the lives of these F1 drivers and the marshals and kind of everyone at a circuit on an F1 weekend. And I just can't fathom, seeing before Verstappen had even hit the wall, as soon as it cut to the TV shot of him spinning, you knew there was going to be a red flag. There was no way that he was going to come out of that and still be able to race and for the grid to continue unimpeded. Like, it was obvious that was going to happen, and I just can't fathom why they didn't do that. I don't know whether they thought because it was close to the wall they could kind of reach over with the vehicle and pick. I've got no idea.
Yeah, because the drivers, they don't. Yes, the yellow flags, you're meant to slow down, but we know these racing drivers with their massive egos. When they see a yellow flag, they will just lift. They will not brake. They will lift. So it's up to the
me
race
and Freddie
director.
Doing karting with the yellow flags coming out the other day.
I actually did brake.
Yeah, for the corners.
If you
why
don't,
you're not an F1 driver. It's up to the race director to call a safety car straight away. And I think when everyone sees an incident like that, when a car doesn't have its wheels on, it's quite obvious that there should be a safety car straight away, not 1 minute after, when in that 1 minute period, someone may have had a similar problem. Someone may have gone over some debris and smashed out over the fence or picked up a puncher and had their own incident. There's so many things that could happen. So the safety car needs to be called straight away so the drivers slow down and there's no chance of another major incident. Yeah,
and I feel like there's to be fair to the system in place, it's not possible to essentially sort of kick one guy out and bring a new guy in, because the way that these people are brought up through the system and stuff like that requires a lot of work and a lot of training. And obviously Masi's passed the appropriate levels to get there. And and for them, like, everything's pretty much been good underneath him. Like all the Anton Hubert wasn't his fault, that kind of thing, and you can't put that down to him and stuff like that. So it's like, for the most part, it has been a safe racetrack, but it feels like it's towing the line with an unsafe racetrack, and that's really, really hard. And like, to compare it to MotoGP, you'll have seen this issue, Nigel, in the Catalan GP. Fabio Casararo who was fighting for the lead of the MotoGP race, got like his leathers came undone. Basically, the front of his leathers came undone, and so he took out his body protector because he basically couldn't ride. And so he was riding around for, it's about a 45-minute race, MotoGP race. He's riding around for about 11 or 12 minutes with his leathers open. And that means his protection was gone. And this is a week after Moto3 rider Jason Dupasquier died in a crash. And it's all, that's bad. And you look at that happening before an F1 race and you kind of think, oh my, I mean, yeah, obviously they're not watching the MotoGP because they're watching they're about to start an F1 race. But it's like, when the whole sort of media around one side of motorsport, which is MotoGP, is about safety and about a really unsafe environment for the riders and stuff like that. And then for F1 to kind of, you know, be in a kind of edging to a similar position when it's like, we're not going to call a safety car. What? I don't. Yeah, it annoys me. And
it does, yeah.
It really annoys me. And I mean, Adam and I have mentioned the karting, going karting the other day, but like there was a group that was on sort of in between our group, and there was like these red lights telling them to stop, and they were just going full throttle, just not looking at it, and it was terrifying to watch. Their carts stopped, and other carts going full pelt past them. It was terrifying.
As well.
Yeah, it's terrifying. And that's 40 miles an hour. So God knows, at 200 miles an hour, with 1,000 people there, with spectators coming back. 2 races time, we got Austria's got full attendance. That's north of 100,000 people in their lives in control of these safety officials. So, yeah, I feel like there needs to be a bit of a storm brewed to say, take these people's lives seriously, please.
I think. Go on, Adam.
I was just going to say, do you think, and I don't know whether this ties up to the decision to restart the race, but it feels like they're kind of only wanting to use safety cars as a last resort, that they're kind of thinking about the spectacle and the products in terms of fans watching, that they want kind of racing to continue as much as possible. And it feels like maybe they're going too far towards that end. That's the only kind of reason I can think of that. I don't know. I think that's just
the only reason I can really think of is that it's just blatantly forgetting the fact that you need to call a safety car. Well, that's what it looks like. I can't think of anything.
Maybe they're overthinking it. Maybe they're thinking like they've got all these. We obviously now hear the teams talking to Michael Massey, which is fantastic coverage, by the way. Maybe he's kind of overthinking it and just not simplifying. Right, there's been a crash. There needs to be a safety car, and he's thinking of all these external factors, people talking in his ear. Maybe he's just, there's something going on there. Perhaps that's the only thing I can think of. I don't think it's related to safety car entertainment or whatever.
I mean, they've got 2 different safety cars this year, and the Mercedes one is caked in a sponsor. So you kind of feel like if they're being cynical about it, they'd want to put out more safety cars, just for sponsorship reasons. But like, I don't know. I know what you mean, Adam. It feels like there is a reticence to put out a safety car, but I don't know if that's more because of like the fact that safety cars bring the pack together, rather than I mean, that's why the VSC is there, surely.
It just feels like they're looking for any excuse not to bring out the safety car. That's just all I'm thinking, all it seems to be.
Maybe they need something like levels of virtual safety car, like a virtual safety car that's like 40 miles an hour in a particular part of the track, like they do in Le Mans. They have slow zones. Yeah. So like you can be fine at this part of the track, but at this part of the track, you've got to slow down here. This is where it's serious. And I'm sure that's probably been discussed in Formula One. It's probably because the circuits are relatively small in comparison to like Le Mans, that kind of thing, but it's not a thing. But like, who knows? There are options to keep people safe, and that's why it's called the safety car.
Yeah, definitely. I think what you've just said, Freddie, over the last 10 minutes is kind of, but you basically said everything I would say as well. So yeah, top job with that.
So you guys said good stuff too.
Thank you. Is there anything else we want to discuss on a pretty crazy race? I mean, the only thing I want to say is Formula One this year has just been unbelievably good. It really. We've talked about it, I think, before Spain and stuff, how amazing it was to see Hamilton and Verstappen go wheel to wheel. But yeah, this season is, I'll go as far as saying, the best season I've ever seen.
Oh, I'm not going that far because we've got 18 races or something to go.
Sorry, so far.
It's definitely a good one. I mean, yeah, there's been a lot of, particularly from me, a lot of sort of maybe criticism and high stakes conversation in this podcast. But yeah, as an arc and everything, as like talking about it earlier, the way we were just watching that race and just completely speechless, but also shouting at the same time, all of that, like sort of going into an F1 race and actually thinking, you know what, I think the chance of this being good outweighs the chance of it being bad, which, you know, that's really hard to say as an F1 fan, really, to be honest. It says a lot about F1, but and it should, because like we're going into it and thinking, oh, we're watching the Spanish Grand Prix, but I think something could happen here. Oh, and it does. I mean, we've got the big challenge coming up with Paul Ricard. Like, guys, if that's a good race, what are we going to do?
To be honest,
I'm going to dinner.
I just think we need to have, like, let's just have a bad race. Let's just have a really boring, dull, bad race to like get it out of the way, like get all the negativity. Because then after that, we've got two Austria, Silverstone, Hungary. We got a mad run of tracks after that. So I just think get the bad race out of the way on the bad track, and then, you know, kind of carry on going full bore with that. There's just 3 other drivers that I'd like to mention quickly, and they are Kimi Räikkönen getting Alfa Romeo's 2nd point of the season in a quick version of the Pezman Stakes, which is all we've got time for today. Sonoda did well. We kind of mentioned him a bit with Gasly, but it was a good performance from him, the first kind of positive or really positive performance we've seen since Bahrain, even though he crashed in qualifying. And Daniel Ricciardo on a kind of less high note. It kind of feels ordinary now that he's kind of having a bad race, or, you know, so far below Norris. I know he crashed in qualifying, but even so, still not looking good from him. The full winner at Baku.
Yeah, Ricciardo was just there, and his only impact on the weekend was his Q2 crash.
Yeah. I've got nothing more to add on that compared to what I've said before, I don't think. So I think that just
who did worse, Ricciardo or Bottas?
Bottas.
Compared to what you've said before.
Bottas.
Okay.
Definitely Bottas. Yeah.
Really?
No, really?
Like, that's got to count a lot, surely.
Actually, yeah. Good point.
He had better pace, though, didn't he? In a McLaren.
He crashed.
Yeah, the crash was bad. That's a good point. But he got points in the end.
Pointless. Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? Let us... I'll try that again. What do you think? Let us know before the next podcast, which will be for the French Grand Prix next week. I've been
Nigel. Where should they let us know?
Oh, you should let us know on Twitter. You can find Freddie Coates on Fred Coates 1999. Yeah. And Adam Dickinson 01. I always get the year thing mixed up with them two. And I'm at Nigel C. Journo.
1901.
Still, I should know that. And our Winging It Twitter is Winging It at Winging It F1. We're also on Spotify, iTunes, and I'm sure you watch us on YouTube so you can see our funny hand actions, such as Freddie's wave, which is to signal goodbye.
Come and watch our funny hand actions, guys.
Or on Gmail at wingingitf1podcast@gmail.com, but email us.
Send us an email, Deborah.